Okay. Mr. Ziggy, welcome back to another episode of Rum and Reasoning.
Yes.
How you been, my brother?
I'm good. We saying you doing an intro today, yeah?
I'm doing the intro today. Yeah. I thought we'd change it up. You know what I mean? Do a little something different.
Keep it, you know?
Before we even touch on today's topic, which I'm really interested to get into, I wanted to introduce today's rum. I'm going to be really honest. I went to the rum shop today and I was like, give me something exotic. And they gave me an Indian rum. Now, funny enough, Indian liquor. I tried an Indian whiskey at my friend who had a restaurant opening a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, it was pants. It was absolutely dire, in my personal opinion. However, this, which is Sitara, don't know anything about it. It's a botanical spiced rum. First day drinking it, and I got to be honest with you, I love this. But you know what? You know why? I like the spice. I like rum and alcohol that has flavor. I'm not one for the kind of hot paint stripper kind of thing. No. I'm just saying to you that I'm pleasantly surprised. I've got this, and I personally will drink this as part of my collection, and I would buy it again. I genuinely feel like that.
Give me this.
That's why I just went straight into the thing like, yo, Sitara. So, Sitara, it's an Indian rum, botanical spiced rum. In my opinion, if you like spiced rum, I think it's something that you should try.
I think maybe because I'm not really. I don't know if I'm a rum bigot. You with me? I think I might be a rum bigot. You know, if rum don't come from a certain place in the world, I think I'm gonna struggle with it.
Big vanilla.
I wasn't a fan.
Big vanilla.
I'm not a fan.
This reminds me of. It's not as nice, but it reminds me of Foursquare.
No way.
Foursquare spice from Barbados. It reminds me of it.
No, we did the Foursquare. The Foursquare. Listen, I would have. Listen.
Taste it and give me.
Tasted it. You know,
taste it and give me a commentary.
I think that's a disgrace. You know, I think as a Bayesian, for you to compare this to Foursquare,
you know what it is, bro.
I'm not gonna spit it out, but no.
Not gonna spit it out. It's that bad. Come on, man, behave.
But to compare this to the Foursquare, I think it's a disgrace. Like it's a very different taste.
I am gonna compare it to the Foursquare. I'm not gonna. The reason why I'm gonna compare it to Foursquare, listen, as a rum connoisseur, right. The reason why I'm comparing it to Foursquare, is because of the nodes in it,
You can use all the posh words you want, bro.
It's giving strong vanilla, and cinnamon.
Okay, all right, you done.
And that strong vanilla and cinnamon, is the reason. You know what, bro?
Go on, I'm listening.
I'm going to replace you on this podcast. Listen,
no one else will put up with you, bro. It's been 30 years. What are you talking about? Go and find someone else. Good luck with that.
Anyway, I'm going to give Sitara a strong, actually, because it's my personal palate. I'm going to give it a strong 7 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
It's out of 5, bro. You forgot.
No, it's always been out of 10.
I'm going to give it... Bro, it's out of 5.
Is it out of 5?
It's out of 5. What would you give it out of 5? So 3.5.
It's not out of 5. You're drunk, bro. It's out of 10.
Well, I'm not drunk on this because I ain't been drinking it, bro. It's
no.
It's out of 5. What would it be out of 5?
Out of 5, I think it qualifies for strong 3.
Okay. I would give this barely a 2.
Okay.
I don't think it has much body to it. I understand it is flavor. It is floral. It
hasn't got enough of punch for you.
No, it's not the punch. It doesn't have enough weight.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it has the substance that I'm used to.
Yeah. So do you know why I like that? And what I'm gonna anyway, I'm not trying to overdo the thingy actually, because I'm not getting paid by Sitara, so it is what it is. Hurry up with your review, brother. Let's move on, bro.
Don't rush me after you just took 10 minutes. No. I'd give it a 2. One of the ones that we still haven't had on, I'm not going to name it, is that famous Venezuelan. I said the famous Venezuelan. We're not going to plag anybody. But it's funny, I was drinking it last night. It's such a bloody good rum. It is such, and it has to have that body. I expect rum to have that, and this doesn't have it. It has beautiful flavors, and what's that? Nodes and whatever. Yeah, cool. You with me? If I was maybe spraying it on a night out, it might be better. But yeah, it's a 2 for me. But you know what? I'll drink it. So No complaints. Seeing as you're leading, and Yaleen, you're introducing us today. What's the topic of the day?
Right. So today's topic is an interesting one. This is something, to be honest with you, that I've been quite keen actually in the run up to today to talk about. And the idea came to me based on some conversations that I was having with the wife a couple of weeks ago. And we were just talking about like journeys and learnings and things that we've learned typically over the years. I think it's been a season of review, and it's kind of like, really, we were talking about things that I experienced in my 20s and things that I wish I would have known. So I thought it'd be a really interesting conversation to really go through with you some of my thoughts on things that I personally would have really that I do wish that I had someone who could have coached me on and schooled me to when I was in my kind of early 20s, late 20s, younger than that as well, and maybe even a little bit older. So yeah, I'd be interested to hear some of your thoughts on that.
It's going to be interesting because the way you speak about, and we've mentioned it in pods before.
Yeah.
I've always, as somebody who got married fairly early, you have probably been like my
18
first,
years.
Yeah, my first example of getting married in your 20s.
Okay.
And it's something I always look to, and you were the first person to help me understand why it's beneficial, like the power of it. So it's Yeah, I'll get them man and not.
Go on.
No. So it's interesting. Yeah. I'd love to hear your perspective because obviously I'm looking at it from a very different perspective. But
what, on marriage?
No, just how you come to form yourself as a man and how getting with the right person and marriage and that solidity and that journey shape that.
Okay, well, we'll come to that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, we'll definitely come to that.
You kick it off.
We will definitely come to that. But one of the things that I wanted to go through first and foremost, but we'll definitely come back to relationships and what I wish I would have known about relationships in my 20s. However, what I wanted to talk about is money.
Yeah?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about money. And something that I genuinely wish that someone would have actually, I need to say it differently, actually. Something that I would really, let's change the perspective on it, right? Something that I really would like for somebody to tell my son. Yeah, you see the paradigm shift there, yeah? Something I would really like for someone to tell my son in his 20s. Do you understand? Something that I think that younger guys need to know in their 20s, yeah? That's really the angle, as opposed to that making it about me or making it about you, right? And in essence, what it would be is, I don't know the way to say it, so I'm going to phrase it in terms of the way that I've experienced it, right? What I would probably say to capture it in a frame is, when it comes to money, it's not about how much money you have. It's about what you do with it.
And how much you can keep.
And how much you can keep, yeah? But 100%, even more so and more importantly, it's about what you do with it. Yeah. And I give you case in point, yeah? There's so many people that I have come across and continue to come across, yeah? That have so much money, yeah? We was just talking to financial advisor, right? And he echoed this.
Let's big him up.
He echoed this.
I think it's...
Yes, please,
Is it I.O. Noble was just in here.
Yeah.
I.O. Noble was literally just in there giving us some financial advice.
And we'll put the stuff in the description.
Yeah. Good guy, man.
Yeah, but like I was saying, like in terms of the scenario, I come across so many people in my journey who've earned and just have so much money, yeah? Whether it's been people that are dibbling, dabbling, or whether it's people who've got really good jobs, whatever the reason of how they come across it, got lots of money, yeah? And certain times I've looked at it and I've been like, raw. The amount of money that these guys are talking about, yeah, I ain't seen that money in my life in one place at a given time, right? And these are, I'm not saying this as hearsay, these are people who are certified that I know that have actually got the money, right? Sometimes they're younger than me, sometimes they're older than me, different cultures, whatever. We're just talking about money, right? Yeah. But a lot of the time I've realized, and I've had a look at it, and I'm like, the only challenge that I've got is I don't see that kind of money. But if I look a little bit at potentially certain circumstances and situations that I'm looking at in my life, and I look at certain circumstances that you're looking at in your life, regardless of the massive divide in terms of the amount of money that you have either access to or that you've actually got. Your thing is not really looking like, or those circumstances and situations are not really looking, in my opinion, the way that they should be looking. And even certain time, and even certain time, let me land. I don't want to get your point. And even certain time, the situation that I'm seeing is a bit different. And I think that what it really stems to is, as I mentioned, you can have a lot of money. Do you understand? But often, if you're not using it and doing the correct things with it, do you understand? Then it's just money.
Yeah.
Do you get where I'm coming from?
It's a tool.
Yeah.
It's a tool. You're not using it effectively.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then it comes down to like the kind of perspective where you say to yourself, well, I've seen people who earn a lot less money do powerful, impactful things with it that just totally change the dial. Yeah. Like, to give an example, when I got let me big up Mumsy, yeah? When I got my first job, first proper job, I was working in Next. Yeah. That was my first consistent job, right? I'll give you a funny story about my first job. But anyway, when I got my first job, consistent job at Next, this is around 19, yeah? Mumsy took me to the bank and she was like, hey, what we're gonna do, yeah? I'm opening this saver account from you, and every time you get paid, X amount is gonna automatically transfer into your account. Yeah. You're living at home, you're not doing nothing, you're not contributing nothing, boom, 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 boom. Case in point, wind forward 2-3 years. Obviously, it's a very different market to what it is now. But I was able to parlay and skew that money into a house deposit, right? Yeah. Now, obviously, it's not comparable. Times have changed, and it's not as easy to get deposits for properties now. But it's a really good example of, it's not a lot of money.
They say how acorns grow into oak trees.
Correct. But what I'm trying to say is, it wasn't then a lot of money, and wouldn't be now a lot of money. But sometimes you don't need a lot of money. You just need to kind of have like a bit of perspective and a bit of diligence into doing something.
Discipline.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's
I agree with you. I agree with you 110%. I wish my mum did try, but she wasn't very fiscally responsible herself.
Okay.
She was a spender more than she was a saver, and unfortunately, I would argue I've taken on some of those traits. But as you get older, especially as a man, you realize that can't work, because responsibilities, whether you like them or not, will buck up in you. So you naturally, unless you want to continue to be irresponsible, and you can't do that forever, because it catches up with you as a man. So there comes a time where, what do they say, the rubber hits the road. And as much as you may like nice, twinkly, shiny things, there comes a time where you have to begin to be responsible. But I wish, when I look at my grandparents, especially my grandmothers, they were fiscally responsible. And it was almost seen as that's an old-fashioned thing to do. I remember my maternal grandmother like noting things down and keeping almost like a ledger. You with me? We would laugh like, look at that old, because money comes, money goes. You know, I think maybe it's an influence of the 80s where money was just so free flowing, but they're keeping things from the 60s. You know what I mean? Ledger. Yeah. But those things have stood the test of time, and I genuinely wish I would have been much more fiscally responsible in my 20s. I think because I looked at, it's almost like, oh well, I'm not earning that big money. It's almost like when I earn that big money,
that's when I'll start.
Yeah. As opposed to, as you're saying, your mum said, your first little job. If them time there, if you were getting paid like £7-8 an hour, that's big money.
I don't think I was getting that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you were getting paid that.
Nah, because minimum wage was like...
Yeah, I remember my first job.
I don't know. I want to say minimum wage weren't £5. Because I remember when minimum wage went up to... Like, minimum wage right now is ridiculous, brother, as employers. It's obscene.
Let's not get on to
But anyway, go on,
before the leftists come for you.
Yeah.
You.
All right, whatever. Have you heard about the London living wage they're taking their big?
Yeah.
Anyway, go.
Please go for him, not me.
Go.
Yeah, £5. I remember. I think when I earned £5, I thought I was on money.
Yeah, man.
And I was this fiscally irresponsible. Yeah, and I say it as a joke.
Yeah.
My first wage packet.
Yeah.
I will never forget it. My first wage packet I took to a shoe shop called Bally. Yeah, and there was a Bally on Regent Street. And with my first wage packet, I went and bought a pair of Bally loafers. For at that time, it was like £150, £60.
Okay.
I didn't save a penny.
Yeah, but I don't think that's necessarily fiscally irresponsible. It's not necessarily about the one-off things that you do. It's about the consistent things that you do. That you've done it consistently.
No, well, if you see my shoe collection now, I think it tells where I've spent money.
Okay. So let's round it up because there's a lot of things that I want to go through. Because I do appreciate that there's a lot of younger people that are going to be absorbing the content as well as, olders and stuff. And just to encourage these ideas for questions.
Small acorns grow into oak trees.
Yeah.
It sounds so stupid and cliched.
Yeah.
And even now I struggle with it. But when I start to see that little over a period of time.
How it builds up.
How much did your mum tell you to save out of your wage packet? Was it a percentage? Was it a specific fixed amount?
I can't remember. But I think I was earning about £1,000. I was putting down about 400 quid.
That's so 40%.
So it was a lot.
So if you're putting down,
you could live off that.
If at any time in your life you're saving 40% of your income, you're
that's
good.
That's probably about the first and last time that I was saving that amount. Do you know what I mean? But it did impress upon me. Do you understand that? That's an example.
Okay, I've got a question.
So that particular
I've got a question for you now.
But let me encapsulate that before we move on to that. So putting that out there, it's not about how much you earn or about how much you have. It's about what you do with it, and more importantly, another way they say it's how much you keep. Right? But if you keep it, you're gonna have to do something with it. So yeah.
In an ideal world, what percentage of your income would you save/invest?
So I got to be honest with you, bro. Yeah. I will give you a direct answer to the question.
Doesn't sound like you're going to, but go on.
I will give you a direct answer to the question.
HMRC's
but I'm gonna preference.
That's why I said percentage.
I'm gonna preference this with, and it's funny enough. That's probably the reason why I said what you do with it. I'm not a strong saver.
That's why I said save or invest.
Yeah, I'm not a strong saver. But what I do try to do is when I do have money, because I'm gonna plug Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Cause
not that book.
Yeah, cause that concept of assets over liabilities was impressed upon my mind like pretty early. What I do try to do, and I can look back proudly and say, you know what, I'm not bad at that. Is when I do have money, I do try and invest it into something that I think is an asset. Yeah. Over the years, I started out investing in a lot of things that I thought were assets that typically probably they were assets, but they weren't the best class of asset for me. So yeah, that's what I try and do. And typically for me, because I'm in property, that's bricks and mortar. Yeah. So but to answer your question, I think if you're saving anything from 20% upwards, you're doing good. Yeah. 10% should be a starter.
Yeah, minimum.
And more importantly than any of that, if we're talking about money, think about tithing. Yeah, think about tithing. Tithing, anyway, we're drifting, but we're not drifting, but I'm going to throw it out there.
Because
tithing is, by tithing, I mean giving a percentage of your money, typically church-wise or religious-wise, it's usually 10%. But whether you're giving to a church, you're giving to a charity or whatever it is, giving is like a fundamental law to getting more money, because subconsciously what you're programming yourself to say is there's more than enough, and that energy brings more money to you. Do you know what I mean? It's like anything, innit? If you walk into something with a scarce or a lack mindset, thinking there's not enough, I can't give anything to anyone because there's just enough for me. Yeah, it's the energy's throwing that kind of like, you know what I mean, the opposite of abundance.
And don't dismiss that, because for young people, they're like, tithing, giving.
People will get that. But I'm mindful. I don't want to digress and take it all over the place.
What's the next step?
The next one that I'm going to bring to the table is something I talk to my son about all the time.
What's that?
Right? And this is the importance of, particularly, this is like going out into your 20s, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And even earlier, because my son's not quite 20 yet. When you are coming out of the gate as a young person, yeah, it's so important to get those early moves, those early years right, and not get distracted. Yeah. I mean, what I say to my son all the time is I say to him, look, I'll give you a proper example. Yeah. You're leaving school and I illustrate to him, look, this is the way I paint it out to him. This is what's going to happen. Yeah. Right now, you're doing your A levels, you're doing your GCSEs, whatever. It seems like, all these interesting things are happening and this is happening, that's happening, blah, blah, blah. But guess what? This is such a pivotal moment, these next couple of years, that you're going to find that all the other groups, all the other races, people are going to start pivoting. You understand? You're going to see that certain guys are going to start working with their dad in their dad's business or whatever it is, in their cash and carry, in their off license, in their whatever it is, and start taking over. You're going to see certain men start driving now, because you're at an age where no one drives. Certain men are going to start coming with their motorbikes and their this and that, whatever it is. People are going to start progressing into different levels. And if you waste your opportunities now to get, for example, education out of the way, couple of years, you're going to find yourself in a position where you've wasted 2 years and now you've got the decision, do you want to do the education thing or do you not? But the other guys who haven't wasted time on whatever their path is are going to surpass you. So then the problem is as well, we've kind of echoed with this when we've talked about youth and trying to make it, it can be a really dejecting, confusing, I'm using all these kind of powerful adjectives, like worrying, can be a really tumultuous time when you're in a space where you feel like everyone's passed you by. And that's why it's really important when you're coming out of the gate. And this applies as much as it does to a A-level student, as it does to a degree level student, as it does to someone who's in their early 20s getting into their first years of work. Your 20s, I want to say your late teens into your early 20s, is so important not to waste time. You may make mistakes, and that's cool.
That's fine.
But
that's expected.
But absolute time wasting, just like I'm not going to do that, or I don't want to do that, or I just want to chase the girls, or I just want to chase the guys, or I just want to
not focus. I just want to party in a specific target.
And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with partying, but just not focusing on using that time right.
Suicide.
Man. I could be, and I'm speaking from experience, right? So I remember all of the things that we're talking about are the things that I'd done. Or even though I turned it up, even though I like to think that I turned certain things around,
I would argue you did, yeah.
A lot of people think that I got a degree. I don't have a degree. I don't have A levels. Yeah, most of my academic self-taught, because I'm a big reader. I've always been a big reader, and I was strong in school. Yeah. However, I mucked about a lot when I was in education. To be honest with you, I kind of really switched off from school before I left school. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I truanted and different things or whatever it is, right? I done college 2 or 3 times and it was like, I'm going to work, right? And it was very insightful for me to kind of early 20s meet peers who hadn't wasted time, and just see like, raw, is that how you're moving?
Is that a quick
is that what's going on? Like, you're a bank manager, you're driving a drop top. All of these things might seem inconsequential or small now, but as a 20-year-old, as someone in their early 20s, these things are really impactful and they have a pop, right? Because if people are just starting to drive and someone's got a drop top luxury vehicle and it's come through proper
drop top luxury vehicle,
I know people who was doing their thing, bruv.
In our age,
in our age group, in our peers, yeah, and I saw it. And you know what the funny thing was? These weren't people necessarily that were doing anything illicit or anything illegal. These were people who were just following the path. And that's why it was insightful to me, because it made me think straight away. And it's something that I've tried to, over the years, keep throwing out to the kids, yeah. It realized, it was impressed upon me immediately. This is the opposite of what I'd done. Where I spent a lot of time skylarking, going around trying to find the thing. It worked for me, but I always thought to myself, how much more if I didn't?
You're the exception.
Yeah.
You with me? And just to kind of give my perspective on it, I agree.
Please.
It's funny, I was actually thinking about it this morning, because mine is almost paralleled, like where I did go down that route of A-levels, university, so on. However, simultaneously, by the time I was 23 years old, I had 2 kids. Right, and I love my children. Let me look into the camera as I say this.
Black woman and
I love my children dearly. And to some extent, they've been anchors for me. Yeah. However, looking back at it now, because kind of at the time, I never thought it was like, oh yeah, 2 youths. I had one at 19, 20, next one at like 23. Yeah, 23.
Yeah.
Yeah, normal, innit? Yo, that's mad. That's absolutely, and this is, I'm going to tie kind of 2 things in. The impact it had on my ability to compound, which is what you're talking about, where you're able to kind of compound. I was lucky because
saving-wise, money-wise.
Just everything. So knowledge, money, opportunities.
Yeah.
Because I had 2 children that I was complete, no, I wasn't complete, but I didn't shirk my responsibilities. It didn't allow me the opportunity to do things as a young person that's going to now establish you in your 30s and in your 40s. So building a strong network, being able to travel, being free to go and do things, like try things, make those mistakes that you're talking about. I couldn't afford to make those mistakes because
you had something riding on it.
Yeah, I had something. The consequences were too dear. So 2 things: the ability to be able to compound over time. You start in your 20s, and it's not necessarily just money. It could be knowledge, skills, as you spoke about, money, as we spoke about, experiences, as you kind of alluded to already. I didn't get the opportunity to do that. It was very kind of narrow. It was very up. I had to play it very safe for a long period of time. The second thing.
So would you? So
sorry, go on.
So just touching on that, I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, go on.
You've talked about basically starting a family when you're early, yeah?
Oh, I wouldn't go so far as to say. I would more say having children.
Having children, okay.
Yes.
So having children at coming out the gate. I mean, what would your advice be on that?
So being that I think there's a year's difference between my son and your son, I've made it very clear to him, and this kind of feeds into my second point, that don't do it. It's a financial shot in the foot. You are listen. It is a financial shot in the foot if you are at 20, going to decide to not get married and build a family. That's a completely separate argument. Because
so we got different takes on it, right? So I got married really young and had kids in the marriage in a marriage kind of structure.
No, hold on. Let's get this straight. You got married and we're in the process of building a family.
Correct.
A unit where you had somebody that you were aligned with and you were trying to build with. So I give you this example. And this is why I'm talking about insight. I remember one of your early business ventures was a
barbershop. Yeah.
A barbershop.
Yeah.
What did you have on the other side? Stroke hairdressers.
Yeah.
That is, who was the hairdresser?
Yeah. My missus was the hairdresser.
Who was the barber? No. Who was the barber?
What you're trying to, I understand what you're trying to go
say
from.
Nothing.
I understand what you're trying to.
Facts.
No, I understand.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's a shared, it's a vision where you're saying, let's try a thing. You this half, me that half.
All right, go on. Yeah.
Does that make sense from the outside?
Yeah, from the outside. Yeah.
But it has to be a shared vision because you're trying to think. The two of you are trying, whether it works out, however it works out, whatever it is, I try to think.
Yeah.
The two of you, whether it works out or it don't,
Yeah.
you find your mistakes from it, you lick something else.
Yeah.
You with me?
Agreed.
But that shared vision of working together and having a family and so on and so forth is all within that. What I say to my son is, brethren, do not have no youths early.
Right. So let me move this conversation along, but on the same point, yeah? I watched something really interesting yesterday. Funny enough, I had a chat with the missus about this, right, as well. Yesterday, I think. Jaimin Konsu, the actor, you know what I'm talking about, Blood Diamond, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Right. He's having a kid at the moment, yeah? He's having a child.
I thought you said he was Brock.
Oh yeah, I heard that as well. But he's someone who's in his mid-50s.
Yeah.
So looks good and whatever. Obviously, he's looking after himself and whatever.
Yeah.
But I watched a little piece on him, and he basically was giving advice. Someone was interviewing him. I think it was Kelly Clarkson. Yeah, if anyone wants to watch it, and he was saying, they were asking him, you know, how do you feel?
His first youth?
No. He's got a couple. He's got a couple of kids. But they were saying, like, how do you feel as an older man having a child? I mean, And he was like, you know what? From my personal opinion, I don't think that people should have children, men in particular, until they hit 35, 40.
Yes.
And the reason being, he said, is because at that kind of stage, as men, until we've really felt adversity, we haven't really grown into manhood, which I'd agree with, right?
Agreed.
My personal perspective, funny that you raise the childhood thing, when I was in school.
Yeah, you wanted youths.
No. But what I did realize, it's going to sound really immature, but this is the truth. This is the real talk, I would look at people actually from even primary school, I remember I had a friend and his name was Lee. And his dad was in his 70s. And he was at primary school. And I always thought, that's long, bruv. Your dad's old, bruv. Your dad's really, really old.
Yeah, but at least dad was
primary
still
school,
shots. Big up
but at primary school, that's wild, right? Anyway, the same kind of thing followed through into secondary school. And I always said to myself, you know what? Me personally,
you don't want to be the old dad.
I don't want to be the old dad in the playground, number one. And number two, as I kind of aged and became like, you know, late teens, moving into my 20s, I said to myself, you know what? Also, I'd like to, one of the reasons why I'd like to get my kids out of the way early is because I'd like to have life after doing the child rearing, right?
There's a way. Don't get me wrong.
No. So
there's a way to do it.
There is. So, but the only reason why I'm raising this as a thing is because I think that when it's an interesting debate. The reason why it's an interesting debate is because there's two. When I looked at the comments on that Jaimin Konsu excerpt, people were kind of resonating with that with it, but there was also a flip side where people were saying, who's trying to be running around in the playground at 40?
All right, hold on.
Over little bambinos.
You've taken it to an extreme.
No. I just thought it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I hear you.
Get the thing, because I wouldn't necessarily say to someone who's in their 20s,
have a youth,
go out and have a youth.
However, and breed up the place.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Become a terrorist.
Definitely definitely not. But however, what I wouldn't say is that not to do it either. It's something that I would say really think about.
Hold on.
Really
no.
think about.
No. It depends on circumstance
and structure.
I don't think for a man, based on what we've said, you can get married in your 20s. Yeah, I think under certain circumstances. Yeah, but it's not ideal.
I got married in my 20s.
It's not well done. It's not ideal, as we said. When you come into manhood and understanding,
you know, I've got a proper big blue Peter badge for that as well. Proper blue Peter badge.
For
those that know,
probably a bit later. You with me? But I know we have.
I think it's good if you could do it, but it's not for everyone.
Hold on, a lot of people have children. Let me be honest. Outside of wedlock, a lot of men will have children outside, and maybe that's where I need to be specific. Having a child outside of wedlock for a man, whatever you decide to do, is a responsibility as a young man that will, where a lot of men don't take on that responsibility.
Right, so
Hold on, let me finish.
Go on.
I'd expect my son to take on that responsibility, and I know it's going to wear him down. And it ties into second thing. It's called a level of discipline, especially sexual discipline.
Dick discipline.
You said it. I tried to be a bit more
Dick
sanitized
discipline.
with it. Fair enough.
Very important.
What he said.
Very important thing for fathers.
For men.
For men. No, but for fathers, more importantly, to talk to their sons about.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to segue into.
Because it moves beyond the birds and the bees into dick discipline.
So explain.
And that's what reckless womb management is the opposite,
I don't know if I'm gonna do another episode,
bad
guys.
dick discipline.
I don't know.
But go on.
I don't know if I can do this guy.
100%.
Explain what you mean by sexual male discipline, which you term as.
I think. Well, for me, I would term dick discipline as being able to be not being driven by your loins, right?
100%.
Not being driven by your loins. Understanding that obviously human nature dictates that we've got urges, we've got needs, we've got desires, but at some point that has to be balanced.
Yeah.
You understand? With a certain level of logic.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So, part of dick discipline is to be not necessarily just going and shooting up the club everywhere, and it's impregnating any and anyone who can get it, but having some discipline to understand that there are consequences.
Yeah.
Much wider and reaching consequences from what could be a really hot, steamy love affair. Do you understand? Because
for all
parties, for however long, 8 minutes, 8 hours, 8 weeks, 8 months, whatever it is, blah 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 blah. But anyway, I want to encapsulate what we've discussed into a point, and that point would be, because we've talked about child rearing and all of that, and what I would say that will come into that we should really pass on as a message to younger people coming out the gate.
Yeah.
Really have some thought process behind your intentions, and have a thought for where you want your life to go. Because what that really speaks to in terms of like the whole child thing early in your 20s is, I think it's all right, and I want your input on this. I think it's all right, retrospect, having gone through my 20s, 30s and had children. I think it's all right if you've got a plan. If you've got a plan and...
You just made me think of something.
Things are moving somewhat intentional. If you've thought about the consequences, like you said, of, where is this going to go? Have I really thought about, where me and my partner are going to go, me and my spouse, me and my wife, me and my girlfriend, whatever it be, where this is going to go? Have I thought about this forward like 10 years? Have I thought, are we going to be together? Do we have things in common? Is this going to be a scenario where I haven't really thought about it, and, there's going to be, for lack of a better word, just kind of like baggage around now? Yeah. Or is this something that I actually intentionally want to dive into? Because far too often, I think that the whole kind of baby mother, baby father, I'm licking a shot, I got X amount of youths, or whatever it is, kind of conversation or one minute mentality within our community.
It's dysfunctional.
It is dysfunctional, but it comes from a place where it's not really taken seriously, and that would be my challenge.
When you say it's not really taken, do you mean the understanding implications of what happens when you decide to engage in this type of lifestyle?
Yeah.
And
I think far too often.
Let me caveat.
I don't want to,
because I don't want anybody to say, that I described, I participated in, and
Okay. Well, I don't know how it is for you, right? But as someone who's known you for a long time, I always have seen that when it comes to your children, you've commented a lot of time, and it shows through in your language. You're someone who's taking it very seriously. And my only concerns are that when I see the kind of, I got X amount of youth, so I got baby father, baby mother, all this kind of stuff going on. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just to the level of seriousness that you take. It's not something to be taken lightly or irresponsibly. Do you understand?
But that goes back to the dick discipline. Sorry, that goes back to the sexual male discipline.
Yeah.
Where if you understand
the consequences,
and also as a young man, the power of your seed.
I think, you know what, for a long time, when it comes to men, yeah, there has been a kind of concept of, I'm going to breed this thing, yeah? I'm just keeping it raw. I'm going to breed this thing because once I've bred this thing, I've locked it down.
Young lady,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
right? And
impregnate,
that whole kind of concept of, oh, I'm just going to breed this thing. Did you breed this thing? I bred this thing. Yeah, man, blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at that. That is number one of the most devastating kind of mentalities that you can have towards, you know, kind of what?
Another human being.
Yeah. Community wise, it's devastating to look at children and baby making in that way. It's a serious thing. So I would say personally that unless it's a part of a plan, unless you perceive yourself as someone who's really, really mature, that anything to do with children, should be put on the back burner until you feel like you've got a solid plan. Because sadly,
the person who you're breeding is integrally involved in that plan.
Yeah. Because I'm saying, and I'm using the terms, those kind of terms like breed and whatever it is, flippantly, but to drive a point home, right? Because I really think that it's just something that needs to be discussed, man.
Yes, to me again, it really comes down to, and I said it, helping your young men.
Hopefully, it's conversation will
to understand. It's two things I show myself. You've got two seeds. You've got the seed that lies within your testes, and you've got the seed up here, seed of game, for want of a better phrase. What you're going to impart, hopefully, on your significant other and your family, that's going to dictate the future. And both are very, very powerful and very, very valuable. And as a young man, with the potential energy you have, you must value, and that is the women you spend time with and the knowledge you impart. So that's who you're going to be talking to, and the type of girls you're going to be around conversing with, as well as who you're going to decide to lie with and spread your seed. The value of that, you can't waste that in any way, shape, or form.
Agreed. And that's going to take me through to my final point, yeah?
Oh, I had a few more points.
Oh, my final point, and then you can come with your thing, yeah? My final point for what I think people need to hear in their 20s, young men, because this one's really aimed for young men, yeah? Although I think that, you know, the young ladies can really gain something from it as well, because there's a lot of kind of crossover, right? But you really focus on getting yourself together.
What does that look like?
Yeah? Getting yourself together, and that means financially getting yourself together, but more importantly, even, or just as importantly, really knowing who you are, right? And that comes really, really knowing who you are, I think comes much, much later. But the foundation of knowing who you are, for example, what does that mean?
Yes.
That means, so for me, what it was for me, was coming to terms with my insecurities.
Okay.
Yeah? Come knowing, all right, well, I'm young, like, you know, I'm street culture, you know, this, that. What do I want to do?
Yeah.
So really, I would say personally, what I wish, like, someone would have told me, although I was able to figure it out, I would have wished that I was armed, like, with that kind of information in the book, from early, coming out the gate, even from in school, like, some people ingraining this into me, is like really kind of like knowing who you are before you kind of really even think about things like overly really committing to anything. Like, what do you want to do? Like, who, you know what I mean? What is it?
And you know what the strange thing is? Unfortunately, at our age, we find a lot of men who still have no clue who they are. And
I think, can I just quickly say
yeah, of course. Sorry.
I think as well that the challenge is with a lot of our development in youngsters, it's kind of echoing the similar points, is that because as young men, we're so kind of motivated to get on the gal thing.
And the money, because it's the money thing.
And the money thing is that sometimes we end up creating families, children, broken families, broken children, you know, jail sentences, like all like drama in the road, all of these different things, because we're so preoccupied with money and women rather than like really kind of like self.
Yeah.
Like really knowledge of self, like knowing who you are, knowing what you want to do. So what I would say is, again, touching it home, like that final point, if I was encapsulating it in terms of like knowing who you are, slow down, man. Slow down, focus on getting the best out of the time, not wasting time, and don't try and live too quickly. Do you know what I mean? 30's gonna come, 40's gonna come. You don't need to try and lick it all out the way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? At 19.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you? You really don't. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
If I was gonna wrap up and say 2 points that I would say to young men, it would be one, and I think you touched on it earlier, and I'm surprised you didn't elaborate. I think it was maybe off camera. Is the importance of a mentor. It sounds cliched. It sounds boring. Oh, mentor, this, that, and the other. And I believe I've said it before. Yeah. But see, as a young man, you got your dad and that, but a mentor or mentors is more than one. Yeah. If you've got a mentor, who's going to show you and guide you through the game of life, it's a massive cheat code.
Yeah.
So, and I tell you enough of what that's important.
But I'm gonna push back on that though. I got big pushback on this.
Hold on, somebody. Oh, yeah, I thought he's done.
No, I got big pushback.
Somebody who might not even necessarily be in your culture, because a lot of times you may want somebody who, or you may only have access to somebody who is like maybe within your church, within your community. So I got
big
so
pushback.
Forth.
Big pushback.
However, let me finish my point. Yo, the money I got. Anyway,
go on.
Having somebody to guide you through the game or give you alternate perspectives, especially people who aren't necessarily, because they're going to be able to show you new perspectives, new worlds that you weren't necessarily exposed to. Chris, come in with your pushback so I can move on to my next point.
No, politely. The pushback that I had on that though, and this is where I will give grace to younger people, is I was that guy. That young 20-something entrepreneurial guy who wants to make strides, who's trying to connect with say it straight, older black men or black men around my age group who are doing things that I can kind of click in with and say, you know what?
Go on.
Boom, how can you do this? How do you do that? And bruv, most guys, my experience was in my early 20s that most people weren't interested. Right. The only way or guys that they were interested in is if they thought they were getting something out of it. Right, so for example, if you were interviewing them and they thought, oh, this is going to reach some kind of newspaper or some kind of article somewhere where it's going to make me look good. Other than that, bruv,
and that's what
people just weren't interested.
Did you hear what you said and did you hear my caveat?
What's the caveat?
So you said, like most guys from quote unquote our community, like maybe black guys. That's why I said, because I said having somebody else. I've said this quite controversially. I've said this before. Yeah,
go on.
In regards to my educational journey.
Go on.
Yeah. My mentors and the people who have showed me the game don't look like me. The man them who I'm calling, the people who I'm calling to say like, yo, boom, boom, boom. And they're saying, all right, connect with that. The man who I'm taking out to dinner to have a chat, the person who's going to catch up with me, don't look like me. And I know a lot of people in the educational space, black educators and so on and so forth, they don't look like me. And that's why I can say that. It's not something in our community, and I'll be honest, that we're amazing at. Especially with the whole coaching thing that's come about where you can monetize your information. So I agree with you on that point.
Yeah, I am going to offer a counter to that. I've had and continue to have lots of mentors. Yes. Yeah? I've got people who are outside of our community.
Yep.
However, I have had at pivotal times and still continue to have a lot of people who are friends as well as mentors who are in our community. Other black men, like focused, driven, successful black men. Yep. So I do think they're there.
We're not great at it.
But I do agree that as men we're not great at it. And that is one of the reasons why I endeavor to be and have that energy, as I know that you do, for other young guys. And that's something I would say as well to other men, other black men. Like no matter who you are, what you're doing, if you're a fantastic PT, if you're a fantastic if you're a fantastic football coach, if you're a fantastic businessman, if you're a fantastic tech guy, if you're whatever it is, if you're like a I don't know, great boxer, whatever it is,
your thing is,
really try and give back where you can, because you don't know the impact that it has on other people and how much other people sometimes are looking for some kind of a positive thing. Yeah, go on.
And the final thing is, it kind of ties in.
Yeah, go on.
Is to have, and I know again you're going to push back on this one as well. Funnily enough, is the importance of the skill, and I don't see it taught or promoted enough. I see it in the business world, like, learn to network, and network is almost a catch-all phrase. You with me? And it's a bit. I wouldn't say network. I would say learn how to engage with people, and learn how to not necessarily always be on the take. Yeah. In networking is simply connecting with another human being. And the best way to connect with another human being is to actually have genuine interest in that person. But we live in a society, and that's what the best networkers do. They will remember, they'll send you a text on your birthday. They'll send flowers to your missus on your anniversary. They'll so on and so forth, because they actually remember you, they care about you, and they just want to connect with you on a human level. So don't go around to these networking events going, oh yeah, here's my card. Yeah, let's network. Nah, take the time to learn how to connect with people on a very basic human level. If you can learn to do that, as well as building what you may call your wolf pack, your team, especially if you're young and you've got another group of young guys like you who are on the same thing. So it might not necessarily be, all right, you're in finance, you're in property, but you might be a plumber. You're in this, but you're deciding you're going to be a PT. I don't know, it's because you said it. But if all of you are hungry and you're kind of pushing for the same thing, and you have similar kind of mindset and build that wolf pack. That is what I would say. Those two things. Network, but not with this cheesy, bloody, I don't know, like inhumane plastic way of networking. Yeah. Oh, you're in property. Oh, yeah, I do finance. Oh, yeah, let's swap. No. Yo, how are you, bro? How are you? Yeah, Chris. Oh, I've got Uncle Chris on and so. Like, where are you from? Oh, okay, let me find out a bit more about you. Let me connect with you. You with me? And then the first.
So are you actually talking about building friendships with people?
It's
and
not
relationships.
It's building relationships, building connections, as opposed to this cheesy plastic networking frame that I'll be honest with you, it makes me sick.
All right, so
push back on the.
I haven't got any pushback. That particular point doesn't really speak to me. But obviously, we're giving advice to other people, you know. So yeah, I haven't actually got any pushback. I think it's valid and it's insightful, right?
Cool.
It's insightful. So yeah, that's
we're gonna wrap this one up.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap that one up.
Listen, if you're young,
and I hope those points are valuable.
Yeah, man. If you're a young man in your 20s, you just got some game, boy.
I think so. I think there's a couple of points there, and we're staying away from the cheesy kind of things as well. But yeah, and look after your hygiene, man. Look after your hygiene. That's the bonus point. That is a bonus. That is the bonus point.
No, you can't just.
No, hold on. Listen.
Hold on.
Look after your hygiene, yeah? Like, at the end of the day, we live in the UK.
Yeah.
You only get a chance to make appearances. You make a first impressions or first appearances, whatever it is, once. And you know what? Like, keeping yourself fresh in terms of the way that you dress. It doesn't need to be expensive. Smelling good. These are one thing that I've noticed, yeah, about a lot of so obviously being in the property space, yeah. At times I do interact with younger people.
Yeah, we say they stink.
Right? No. What I find, I'm just gonna hold it to thinking, what I find is that there's certain concepts and stuff that maybe for our generation just seems to be lost. Like, you go into a man's studio or man's apartment or whatever to do an inspection, a room even, yeah? And it's just wild. Like, yeah, like for example, the young person might be driving, or the young man might be driving a Mercedes.
Yeah.
Cool. They might have expensive designer things in their unit, but the place is just a mess. And it's just, it just kind of speaks to things. I've seen that so many times where I realize, you know, especially in our community, where I realize, you know, this is actually a challenge. So I say all of that to say, like, that's something really important as well. Like, tidy environment, tidy mind.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Look good.
See the
smell good. Keep your environment clean.
Not mask. What a lot of kids, young people do is they, brethren, bathe properly, and it doesn't have to be the top of the range.
I tried
cologne.
to spread it out a little bit.
You can get listen, I'm going to be honest with you.
We're gonna have to do one of these.
Hold
shows.
on, you can get dupe colognes like listen, it can be £20. You can get something from Zara.
Come out to the 90s and 80s.
No, man, you can go to Zara.
Dupe. Oh, you can get good dupes. Is that
That's
what you mean?
Yeah, dupes. Yeah, copies. Okay. You get good ones from Zara. That's £20. I'm not saying go and spend X amount, but just please. I'm gonna
just go to a decent fragrance house, man. Go to Creed or something like that, and just get
bro,
bare
what kind
things.
of arms? Like Creed's £300. Didn't you say your first wage was a bag?
No, Creed's not £300. Creed, 100ml bottle of Creed's about 250-ish kind of thing for a half decent.
Are you all right? I just said £300, and you said no, it's nowhere near. It's £50 less. 200. I thought you were gonna say. I'm like, that Creed Aventus is like tree bills.
You know what?
Go Zara.
Get a little
£20.
Groom yourself.
Yeah.
These are the bonus points, young men. Groom yourself. Smell good. Dress well. Yeah. If you're gonna be sporty, do your thing. Run the tracksuits or whatever it is, but make sure at the same time that's when it's time to turn it up for a date night or for a formal function that you've got. Some hard sole shoes, and you've got your formal kind of, and you've got your formal kind of. Listen, on podcast,
guys, because he triggered me when he said shoes.
Listen,
told us my addiction, guys. Rum Reasoning podcast. This one's for the young man. Them, they need shoes.
Things you need to know.
Shoes. You need some shoes.
Peak game.